and welcome to the Brantley Bank Coaches Show, hosted by Vaughn Forest Church. We talk all things Pike Road Patriots football with head football coach Ed Rigby. My name is Adam Bishop. I serve as the pastor here at Vaughn Forest Church and the host of our weekly Brantley Bank Coaches Show. So, Coach, welcome back for another episode.
Adam, thank you for having us one more time. Thank you.
Absolutely. We got a big game Friday night, kicking off our region season with Wetumpka High School hosting them. We're going to talk about that today. But, Coach, before we get to that, I want to recap a little bit. This past Friday night, hosted Marist High School out of Atlanta. We talked last week about the type of team they'd be bringing. They delivered on that reputation. And good competition. And, Coach, it was a good game. They bested us 33-22. We did have a couple turnovers, led to 14 points. But I can imagine for you and your coaches, for the players, even a game like that has served you well this week in practice.
Yes, it served us very well, Adam. You know, Bear Bryant said it best. You know, at the time that he said this, you know, offenses were running around 65, 68 plays a game. Now, you know, offenses at the collegiate level can get even up in the 90s, the low 90s. But his saying was this, you know, you play 65 to 68 plays a game, and when it comes down to it, there's two or three that matter, that determine the outcome of a ball game.
Right.
And we've kind of been in that situation the last 2 weeks. The other thing Bear Bryant said, and I'm not like a big Alabama Bear Bryant, you know, that's not, you know, I'm always quoting him. I'm not. This was out of one of his books that I stumbled across around the year 2000. And he had said that, you know, there's only one stat in football that matters. It's giveaways and takeaways. And, you know, we lost that battle last week. We lost that battle the week before.
Right.
And in both weeks, in both games against quality opponents, you know, those have cost us 14 points in each game. And, you know, it's determined the outcome. And with that being said, you know, it's a game of giveaways and takeaways. Throw all the other stats out the window. You know, the statistical math of it, and this is from a few years ago, in the NFL, it was in the high 70%. It may be different now, even more. The team with the fewest turnovers won.
Right.
And, you know, last week was an example where we lost that 2 turnovers to 0 turnovers, and they were able to capitalize on both of those instantly. And, you know, the bottom line is, you know, I said this for years, and I started this years ago, and I've kind of not. There's been so much to get in and so much to do. It's not been the point of emphasis per se. But here's the deal, okay? 0 turnovers this Friday, and Pike Road wins. 0 turnovers this Friday. Tomorrow night, Pike Road wins. The next week, 0 turnovers, we win. And that's got to be what we've really coached, which we do ball security drills. We do all that stuff that you do. And another thing that was a Bear Bryant thing, or actually it was a Bobby Bowden thing, when you start just harping on turnovers, you'll notice they happen more. You just keep drilling, and they tend to work themselves out. You know, if you just keep doing the work for it and not bring so much, you know, you point it out, you know, we got to do this, but you don't make it where it's a constant yelling thing and all that. You just keep drilling it, and eventually the grips into this, into that. It kind of takes care of itself.
And that's got to be encouraging because those are mistakes that can be fixed.
They're fixable.
Because I watched the game, Coach. I thought our defense played good assignment football.
Yes,
Marist is good at executing that offense, but our guys played good, sound defense. Just got a couple turnovers. Those are things you can fix in practice.
We can fix because
we're working on them all week.
You said it, Adam. It's all about us. It ain't about them.
Right.
Whether it's this week and moving forward. And here's the interesting thing about Marist, and I'm going to give them some credit and some background that you know, I knew about their tradition. I knew how good they were. What all they've won the state championships in Georgia and how good. But before the game, I'm talking to their head coach, okay, and Coach Chadwick. And we're talking, and an interesting thing. I'm like, Coach, how long you been at Marist? You know, because he looked a lot older than what I thought he was on the phone, because I never met this guy. We've only talked 2 weeks prior, had a conversation. He said, I've been there 49 years, Coach. And I'm like, my gosh, 49, I'm only 54.
That's
so,
incredible.
You know, I'm like, okay.
I was not aware of that.
And so I'm like, well, Coach, you've been there that long? How many years you been head coach? He said, well, my first nine, I was an assistant. And he said, this year's 40 as the head coach. And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
You don't stay there for 40 years and not do something right. You figure some stuff out of high school football. And I said, well, Coach, just out of curiosity, how many wins do you have? Because, again, this is a 2-week game. We're trying to win week 1, trying to win. I'm not researching all it.
Right.
We're focused on them and stopping what they do, improving what we do. And he said over 400. He's one of the winningest coaches in America.
That's fantastic.
In high school football.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is a legend. Of course, I'm not like slobbering. Oh, you're a legend. I want to be like you. No. But my point was, I walked away from it. Literally, I was by the goalpost. We were doing specialty when he walked out there. And I walked away and said, we could be in trouble right here. Because the thing is, we're not at the discipline level yet that we want to be. We're not at that level. We are so much better than day one, week one. Immensely better, but we're still not at that fine where we don't get the penalties, we don't bobble this, we don't jump offside, we don't bust these out. We're still not where we want to be.
Right.
But one thing I can tell you, Adam, is if they say practice perfect, practice, you're going to play how you practice. Well, by gosh, we practiced pretty doggone good yesterday, especially yesterday.
Good.
And the focus this morning at 7 o'clock. Spot on. We've seen things, and it was kind of like, this is what I thought things were going to look like. The kids have taken it to heart. We're in region play on Friday against Wetumpka, a much improved Wetumpka team. They're 2-0. We're 0-2. This is region play.
Right.
Hey, all bets are off. Hey, we're not thinking of the past. We've broken the rearview mirror off, thrown it in the back seat, and don't do that, by the way. And thrown it in the back seat, and we're moving on. And Wetumpka, much better. They're spread. Thank the Lord, they're not flex bone.
That's right.
And but they're a spread team. They do some similar things that we do. They have a good athlete at quarterback, running back, O-line solid. Defensively, they blitz a lot. They're a 3-4 to slide it to a 3-3 stack. They run a lot of man and man-free coverage. So they're similar in some ways to us, but we all have our different tweaks and things we do. And that being said, defensively, their first two games, exact opposite of ours. Their opponents did the same mistakes we did, and it cost their opponents scores, and they were able to get victories off of those, which is good football. You capitalize off your opponent's mistakes.
Right, correct.
And with that being said, it's going to be a great ball game. They're going to bring a lot more people, obviously. Stadium's going to be packed. This is going to be one where, and here's a funny tidbit. So taking the job, I've heard about, you got to be here at 5. You either get here at 5:30 or you get here at 7:30. You're going to be late.
That's true.
So when the game, right before we kick off, I looked up on the road right there, and there's cars lined up. And I remember at the end of the first quarter when they were coming over to get water, I was looking across their bench, and I looked up, and that line of cars was still there.
Right.
Where it's moving, but there's still a line of cars, and you can see them on the video. Beep, 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 beep. So this one is going to be more even. That you're either going to be there at 5:30 or you're going to be there at 7:30 or 8.
And Coach is right. We were in our seats, Coach, at 5:45 last Friday night, and if we hadn't been, we'd have been sitting in that row of cars as well. And that's also a good opportunity to remind our fans that parking passes are still available.
Yes.
We'll put the link up here on our Coach's show. That will save you a little bit of time, but even if you get there with a parking pass, you're going to have to get there early to get your seats.
Yes, and thank you for mentioning that, Adam, because I think they may have lowered the price. I'm not real sure. That's the quarterback club who's done a phenomenal job. All the folks involved in that have worked tirelessly, aimlessly, and took an organization that of things that really should have been done, in May and June, and because of all the movement in the school system of newness and different positions, we're not able to get started till about 6 weeks ago. And Nigel and his crew, I mean, they've pulled off in about a 5-week period what is amazing, truly amazing. And the text thread that I'm in, and I try to stay out of it, not because I don't want to, I'm trying to focus on what I'm doing.
Right.
But I read it and I'm like, did these folks ever sleep?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is, it's a constant thing. But yes, there are still some parking passes available. That's through the quarterback club. You can go to our website, which is QB Club,
We'll put that website right up here on the link of the show, Coach.
Please do.
And maybe your local business leader. Coach, there's still some opportunities to support the football team as well as the entire athletic department. So
Yes,
we'll make
correct.
sure that we put those links up for you as well. And Coach, you had some production coming out of your running backs last Friday night that I know you're excited about as we look towards this game ahead. Let me read a couple of these stats because I think we had some guys that really played some good games here. Anthony Rogers, 15 carries, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns. DJ Williams, 15 carries, 55 yards, 1 touchdown, and A.T. Thornton contributing as well with 3 carries, 60 yards. You've got to be encouraged by that production.
Very, very encouraging. Like we were talking earlier, I'm not a mathematician, and I actually messed the math up for y'all. And but 3 carries at 60 yards. If my math is right, that's 20 yards a carry.
That's good production.
That's unbelievable. I ought to give him the ball more. And that's poor coaching on our part. And but A.T. came in, was a great spark, phenomenal young man, and is a great spark with a great personality. And his personality is as much a spark as he is on a football field. Great kid. But yes, very encouraging. And what we've got to do this week is open up that pass a little bit more to back people off, get them up out of the box. And that's just good football. I mean, anybody's going to work on that. And but we've worked hard on tweaking some things, and we've had a few injuries and a couple kids who are going to be out for a while on the offensive side. That we'll get them back at some point. And but for now, so we've had to move some personnel, and you're only as good as your quality depth on things, especially at this level, and that's why we work our twos so much. They get a lot of reps because you're only going to be as good as them, especially in playoff time. Defensively, if you were there at the game, you saw the flex bone run to perfection. It is get first downs, hand it to the fullback 80% of the time, which we knew, and then once you stop it, pull it, quarterback, keep it, pitch it around the edge, rocket toss around the edge, and they were to the T. They check their plays on the line right there. They'll start that little half motion stop, walk back, they'll check it, and boom, go. But Stephon and Mac, our 2 inside backers, both had 8 tackles apiece. Tremarcus Webb ended up with, I think, 6 tackles. And our front didn't get so much of the glory because they were having to bury, they chop you and cut you the whole time. So they were trying to get you off their legs, and they were having to bury a lot of double teams so those backers could make those plays. So across the front, Hurst and Malik and let's see, Gavin Rogers was in there a lot, and Shamar Powell. Those guys had to go in and bury. And obviously Buki, was out this week, may return tomorrow. We'll see. And if he gets to return, and but they did a good job of burying a lot of stuff up front, and of course the secondary has to come up and fill it up, but you got to stay back because it's all predicated off a chess match,
right?
Safety roll here, they're going to throw there, which they only attempted 1 pass in the ball game. You know what I'm saying?
And for those of you who are listening, Coach and I talked about this last week, now after having seen that game, just how unique that is. And again, not something we'll see again this season.
No, we won't see it until second week of the season next year when we go play them.
And Coach, again, I think it's worth drawing some attention to the value of these first 2 games. Typical fan, they look at the record, they say 0-2, what's wrong? I think from a coach's perspective, you look at the record, you see some things that can be corrected. And like you've said before, it's about where you're at the end of the season.
Yes, week 11.
And now as we enter into region play, Coach, I think our team is more prepared for region play after these first 2 games if we had not played such strong competition.
Yes, we're talking about in the classification that they are, the first 2 teams, we're talking about 2 top 5 teams. And the bottom line is this: if we would have played, Joe Blow, whoever, we would still be making all those mistakes, turn the ball over, get the penalty, and we would still score 40 on them. Then when you play real competition, your weaknesses are going to get exposed. We've got exposed on a couple things in week 1 and week 2 that we had the ability to work on and fix for when it really, really, every game matters because we're playing and there's a scoreboard. But for when it really, really matters, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock versus Wetumpka High School, we've been able to lock in and focus. We've been exposed on some things. We've seen things on film that we've had to correct. And that's what we've chased after and attacked in the correction. So what you're saying, Adam, is 100% true. I do not believe in moral victories or anything of that such. But what I believe in is fixing and getting better and making the focus about us. It's us at Pike Road. These are things we've got to do. We're not worried about these other teams. If we don't fix these, it doesn't matter. So who we play doesn't matter. We fix them, and we're okay who we play.
Right.
Right. So
we're looking forward to hosting our first region game. Wetumpka's coming to the house, 7 p.m. We'll put the link up here to purchase your tickets. And Coach, the coach of Wetumpka is a first-time head coach, Bear Woods. Has got his team off to a 2-0 start. What do you know about his preparation? And I know he played in the Canadian Football League, but now he's coaching at Wetumpka High School, and he's going to have these young men ready to go.
Yes, yeah, it's pretty exciting for them. Bear's a Troy guy, and I had the pleasure of meeting him. It's probably 10 years ago, right when we moved to Alabama. And, it's first year to be a high school coach,
Right.
and he's a head coach.
Right.
So, there's a lot of, a lot that goes into that because there's a huge learning curve because every level's different from 2A high school to 5A to 6A to 7. Everything is different. And again, you don't know what you don't know. And he'll be, in a situation where a lot of it he'll have to learn on the fly, through trial and error of good and bad, that's part of it. But I know he's doing his due diligence. They're very, they're organized. They look good. What they're doing is good, very, very sound. And in the places where they aren't sound is where we're going after them.
Right.
And off of film, the film that we have, and we all have chinks in our armor, and it's our job to find theirs and their jobs to find us. And but it's got to be exciting. They're 2-0. And against 2 7A high schools, Baker out of Mobile and JD here out of Montgomery. And but reality is reality. What we've played is different, and there was a reason for it.
Right.
Iron sharpens iron. That's a battle cry I've had for years. That's a battle cry we have with our kids because it does. And again, I want to play the best people possible. I'm not worried about the win-loss aspect of that. I mean, we want to win, but what I'm worried about is getting better every week. And traditionally, I especially offensively, usually offensively, the teams I coach get better as we go.
Right. And
that's what I've said from the first time me and you've ever talked. I'm sticking to my guns. They had 238 yards or 242 yards of offense. We had 379 yards of offense the other night, and we lost.
Wow.
And the deal is that will get more and more, and the points will go on the board with that.
Right.
I fully expect that. I've not done it 49, but my 31 years tell me that. And the type of kids that we have, and again, how they practiced. Yesterday, I mean, we tell them, hey, it was a good job day when we were really, locked in focus. But yesterday was a good Wednesday. Had a lot of Wednesdays in this career. It was a good Wednesday. This morning was a great morning, a lot of focus. And, and our kids will get to go home after school because we have Leadership Council, which is a group of about 8 kids who, going through a leadership course. They'll stay after school for an hour today with Patrick Quinn. And, Pastor Quinn. And they'll go through that with him. And, he takes his time to do that. And he does a really, really good job of it. And but they meet. I don't meet with them. They discuss issues, and they go through, hey, this is an issue we see. What, talk about it. They put it on the board. Let's come up with solutions. Not Coach Rigby solutions, but us as player solutions. How can we, if we see this as something, how can we fix that? How can we be involved in that? And that is special.
It is.
It's special. It's the first team I've ever been a part of that's done it. And there's been great leaders on a lot of teams I've coached, and some with not so many leaders. But what this does is, and it's not just seniors, it's seniors, juniors, and some sophomores. And the deal is, it's a way that they self-police. It's one thing for me to yell and scream about one thing, and discipline-wise, it's another thing when your teammates are like, hey, and you stick together. They stick together on it. So it's a really good thing. But we did good this morning. Got outside, brushed everything up, got in the weight room, got it done. Went and fed them breakfast, in the cafeteria. Because we have them all first block. So at the end of first block, go feed them, and send them off to class to be good students. And
That's right.
But it was good. And they'll get to go home, get off their feet. It's about hydration because the science is you're going to play on the 24 to 48 hours prior of food and all that kind of stuff. And so technically our hay is in the barn. It's in the barn. And it's there. The plan's in. We've had a good week of practice. We're going in, pretty healthy. The kids who can play are healthy. You're going to be all beat up from practice. That's football. They will be too, and they've practiced hard, I'm sure. But it's what it's all about. It's going to be packed. Hey, the weather should be good. People tell me, usually I look, but I've not even looked because it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. If it lightens, we'll have to go in. If it doesn't, we're going to keep playing. And, we started in the rain and the other night, and and which is great for what they do.
It fit right into their strategy, Coach.
Geez. I mean, I'm like, when it started raining, I'm like, Jiminy Crickets. Holy cow. What
And
more do you want?
And for those listening, what Coach and I are talking about is rain always favors the offense because they know the play and your defense is reacting. And with an offense like that, all it did was actually give them a little added advantage that, Coach, they didn't really need.
They didn't, because we backed off, and there was some stuff we wanted to go throw in the first quarter that we didn't, just because there's so many variables. And when you're trying to develop your passing program, throwing in the rain coming straight down, because I would look across at the lights, we got the lights that show up,
right?
And that's what magnifies how much rain. Yeah. You can look up at lights and it looks like a lot, but when you look at them shining up, you see how fast it's coming down, and I'm like, holy cow.
But even with that, Coach, Caleb's first pass of the game, an incomplete pass, it loosened up the defense. Very next plays when Anthony broke off the large run for a touchdown.
We ran right back behind that with the counter.
So it still served its purpose.
Yes, it served its purpose. It loosened them up, and that's what we're trying to do. And Caleb is, developing nicely. And when you step in, and the whole offense is new to everybody, and you're new at quarterback, and you're new to the kids, and it's a lot to take in. People don't realize the pressure that's on a high school quarterback in a competitive program, on every quarterback, but especially in a competitive program. All of the things that you've got that goes through their head prior to the snap, where an O lineman, or let's say a receiver's just, I'm stop blocking number 2. How am I going to get it done? Where he's thinking, is he lined up right out there? We're about to come in motion. I got to snap it at this certain point, make this fake, hand the ball here. Then I got to run and make my fake. There's a lot that goes into it to do it right. So he's taken that job and done a great job with it. And I don't talk about it enough, but I'm very proud of him. I'm very proud of where he's at right now. And he will only continue to get better and better and better, because he's always there. And in other programs, they got the kids who are always there too, but he is always there, and he's going to get it done. I believe in him, and I don't sit there and tell him. And I tell him I believe in you, yeah, I love you, that kind of thing. But in reality, he's going to get it done. He has the qualities of what it takes to do it.
That's good. Well, let me come back to something you mentioned earlier, because I think a lot of our listeners would be interested to know. People show up, they see a game on Friday night, Coach. They don't know everything that goes into the preparation, not just with the tactical side of the game plans, but you mentioned Patrick Quinn, pastor Century Church here in Pike Road, fantastic leader. But what kind of asset is that to have someone who's investing in these young men at a leadership council, who are then being the leaders off the field, on the field, developing them to be leaders even beyond their high school football career? That's something special.
It is very special, and the sport and all sports in high school and really at every level have changed. The talk of, let's say, mental health now, that you never heard about 2 years ago, you never heard about 10 years ago, you never had 15 years ago. The dynamic of how the family is different than, let's say, 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. All of these type things, they've changed the way you go about doing a lot of things. And the average person in the stands has no earthly idea. And this is not just at Pike Road, which we're very blessed. But let's take every high school in the whole state of Alabama, and every state. The dynamic of the kids and the backgrounds they're coming from are so different than 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago.
Right.
It is a different world. And with that, it's one thing to go out there and just coach them for Friday night. It's another thing to love them and care about them and everybody. I love my kids. I love my players. Seeing is doing, and actions speak louder than words. It's another thing to truly love your kids, and to love them in a way that you try to do things in a way that helps them beyond this sport and Friday night.
Right.
Because they are going to go out and be young men in the community, and fathers and husbands and all of that. And with that being said, there are no points on the scoreboard for that. And to do it and do it right, it takes time.
Right.
And it takes effort. And no one is ever going to see this on a scoreboard. But here's where you're going to see it. You're going to see it when you're at the grocery store and someone walks up to you and they're 26, 27, they got a wife, they've got a child, they're doing air condition, working for an AC company, they can pay to fix something when it goes out in their house. They can put braces on their kids' teeth. They can send their kids to college. And those are words a lot of people speak, but the one thing I can vouch for, you may say I'm not a good football coach. You may say a lot of things, okay, about me. But the one thing you're never going to say is we don't try to prepare them for beyond, that we don't check on their grades, that we don't do this, that, and another to try and help them be better men and talk to them and that kind of stuff. So the wins and losses will take care of themselves. I'm not worried in the least little bit about that stuff. But making them into young men is my concern, that we're handling things in the right way to teach them. And if you call any of them players in here, they'll tell you, I do talk about the father thing. I do talk about the husband thing and communication. If you don't learn to communicate, you're not going to have a great relationship with your kids.
Right.
Your kids, and I've been there, your kids will go off and do things and we'll go through phases and hormone changes and this and that where it's not. But at the end of the day, when they're older and they've all come to their senses, and we all did have to do it too.
That's right.
You're going to have a relationship with them. And even with your spouse, everything's not going to be perfect. But if you don't learn basic communication, and this is something that's very much missing, that over the last years I've really dealt with, because I talk about a lot about communicating. And not just throwing out the words, you got to learn to communicate.
Right.
What does that mean to communicate? Spell it out. Not in the Webster definition, but this is what it means in the real world, and with your family and with your loved ones. This is what it means. And if you're late for curfew, if your mom and dad has a curfew, communicate if something happens and you're not going to be there. Even if you're going to get in trouble because it's all on you, learn that skill. Learn it, because it's going to help you in life down the road.
Right.
And it may save your marriage. It may save your relationship with your kids. It may save your job. It may save a lot of things. But learn communication. So yes, to go back and circle back to the thing, being blessed to have someone in the community that's taken a forefront leadership role, that doesn't get paid to do any of this stuff, that does it out of the love of their heart. And you're sitting across the table from me and what y'all are doing and doing the game tomorrow night live and that kind of stuff. Nobody's getting money for this. No one's getting paid for this. It's just a thing of enjoying it and making it better for the kids.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Coach, one of the things we say here at Vaughn Forest all the time is whoever wants the next generation the most will get them. It takes all of us believing in them, investing in them, teaching them. And Coach, we're so grateful for you and your leadership and the way you model that so well in our community. And Coach, I think that's a great place for us to wrap up today. Reminding everybody that while football matters, there's a greater purpose at work in these young men's lives. I'm so grateful that you and your other coaches help to cultivate that in them.
They do a great job of it in relationships, because that's really what it comes down to. And I appreciate all y'all do. And the thing is we're not going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. I tell kids continually, I mess up probably more than you do. You just don't get to see it because you're not around me all day long, and get mad inside and do things, whatever. But none of us are perfect. And I was just talking about, I have a PE class with which Coach Hudson's one who really has it. But I was talking to kids where, and these are kids of all sports. These are ninth grade soccer players, baseball, basketball, cross country. It's a little group. We're talking to them just then before I left. And the bottom line is my mom's 85. She's going to learn something today in Pensacola, Florida, sitting there by herself, that she did not know yesterday at 85.
Yeah.
It may be a phone call where she learns about somebody, something. It may be something she sees on TV. Every day we see a stimulus or hear a stimulus that we never knew the day before. We never stop growing.
That's good.
We never stop growing. And I'm a work in progress of growth. And as a coach and as a husband, a father, and a son, and a whatever, a community member, and they are too. And the thing is, when you learn that none of us are perfect, we're going to have faults, and we can work beyond those. Communicate, love. And I use that word a lot and explain to the kids, what does it mean? I'm not just going to say it. If you call me at 12 tonight and you're in a, that's love. Try to help you deal with it. And we're not perfect, so I'm not trying to. Geez, I'm screw up.
And I know I love how football helps serve that purpose for these young men. And Coach, we're grateful for your leadership. And Pike Road Nation, we need you Friday night. 7
Amen.
p.m.
We
Pike
need you
Road
loud.
Stadium.
We need you there.
You pick up your tickets. Here's the link, putting it up on the screen. If for whatever reason you can't be there, you can also view the game on YouTube at Pike Road Live. But hopefully, being a home game, we'll be able to see a big turnout for Friday night at 7 o'clock. So, Coach, thank you for another episode of the Brantley Bank Coaches Show.
Thank
we'll
y'all
all
for
be
having
there
us.
cheering
Thank
you on
you so
Friday
much.
night. Absolutely. Go Patriots.
Go Patriots.